The Chairman: Is it public knowledge what you charge? Mr. Graham: Yes, we charge a great deal. We pay ourselves salaries on the order of $25,000 and $15,000, and we have a profit sharing plan under which, after a $40 share dividend is earned and paid in any year, the management as a whole receives 20% of the additional amount earned and paid. The Chairman: Are your earnings largely capital gains? Mr. Graham: Yes, very largely capital gain. As a matter of fact, you might say they are almost exclusively so. The Chairman: I hope it is clear that if you do not wish to say, if it is a matter that you do not wish to discuss, particularly your own compensation, I am not trying to fish. This is just illustrative of what I assume is typically a successful man, and if you do not care to answer, I hope you will feel free to say so. Mr. Graham: I would just like to make two remarks about that. In the first place, I have no hesitation whatever in telling you the things that the investors in my fund know, obviously. But secondly, I think it is a misconception to consider that we are typical managers of a successful firm. Our arrangement is very unusual. The Chairman: I want to clear up the misconception. That is exactly why you are here. Why is it not typical? I would like you to describe what a typical situation is. Mr. Graham: The difference is first that our compensation arrangement is much more liberal than that received by other investment funds. This 20% which we receive on excess earnings is a very large percentage. The Chairman: But that depends on what you pay. You said $40 a share, which struck me as a rather liberal dividend. Mr. Graham: That is just the base dividend. We paid $340 a share last year. The Chairman: That is still better than General Motors paid. Mr. Graham: Yes, I just want to make two things clear, sir. One is that our compensation arrangement is much more liberal in its terms than the standard arrangement. Secondly, we believe, I think our stockholders believe, that we earn our compensation because our results to them after deducting compensation have been good. The Chairman: I assumed that, or you would not be there. I was trying to get a picture of this business. You are helping us a great deal, I may say. Can you put it in a little different terms so that we can compare your situation with the managers of some of the well-known firms? I would appreciate it if you would put that in the record so that we will have it. Mr. Graham: Oh yes, the difference is tremendous between our own situation and that of a typical investment fund. Let us take the largest one, Massachusetts Investors Trust. Their capital may be 100 times ours. Their expenses are very much less than 100 times ours. Their expense burden is very little percentage-wise as compared with ours. The trustees receive compensation on the order of maybe 1/4 of 1% on capital. The Chairman: Wait a minute, of earnings or capital? Mr. Graham: That would be capital. The Chairman: Per year, 1/4 of 1%? Mr. Graham: No, I think I have overstated it. It might have been that much at one time. I think it is less now. As the capital grows, the percentage of compensation to the trustees has diminished. Frankly speaking, I should not be talking about this because I do not know it well enough, but I do know in general that their rate of compensation is very conservative in relation to the funds that they handle. The Chairman: What percentage of the capital invested in your funds is represented by the compensation to management? Can you express it in terms of what would be comparable? Would it be 1%? Mr. Graham: Well, let us put it this way. Over a period of years, we've tended to earn about 20% on capital per year before compensation, and about 3% of that has been paid to management as compensation, leaving 17% for the stockholders. The Chairman: 3% of the earnings? Mr. Graham: No. 3% on capital out of the 20% earned on capital. The Chairman: I do not follow you there. You earn 20% on the invested capital per year, is that right? Mr. Graham: That is roughly true on average. The Chairman: What percentage of the 20 did you get as management? Mr. Graham: We got about 15%, the reason being that there is a 4% deduction first. The Chairman: 15% of the 20% earned? Mr. Graham: That is right. Not 15% out of 20 leaving 5, but 15% of 20. The Chairman: Leaving 85% of the stockholders of the 20. Mr. Graham: That is right. The Chairman: I understand that. Maybe it is a silly question and you never do it, but is it ever translated into a percentage of the capital invested per year? Mr. Graham: Well, these figures I'm giving you start with the percentage of capital invested. The Chairman: No, that is earnings. Mr. Graham, well, we earn 20% on capital. I may summarise once again. Taking that as typical result on capital, the stockholders have gotten 17% on their capital, and we have gotten an amount equivalent to 3% on their capital. The chairman, I see, whereas the normal or average investment company, I take it, is less than 1%, is that right? Mr. Graham, yes, that is certainly true. The chairman, you get 3 times as much as the average or better. Mr. Graham, that is true. The chairman, well, I take it you are worth it. You manage it more effectively than they do. Is that not correct? Mr. Graham, well, naturally we have to believe that, and our stockholders believe that.